Good morning, everybody. Kai Jacobs of the South Florida Business Law Group, and today is January 21, 2021. This is our regularly scheduled office hours that we host on Thursdays at 10 a.m., and I thank everyone for joining me. This week, in response to a lot of questions and demands, we're going to do a little update on PPP. So if you are listening to this after January 21, 2021, be aware this information may not be current and you may want to look for updated information on www.sba.gov. Since we cater mostly to small businesses and small business operators, we've received a lot of questions recently about the newest update to PPP, which is the payroll paycheck protection program. You should know that as of today, it is now open to all lenders, meaning if you were trying to apply before January 19, the bank you may have sought out or the lender you may have sought out may not have been available to you. There were some bureaucratic and procedural issues about when they were rolling out money to lending institutions to make that money available. But as of the 19th, it's available to all of the lending institutions that will be making that money available. You should know that the deadline to apply is March 31. And as you know, yesterday, there was a new president and a new administration that came in. I am told that there is the potential for a whole new wave of relief coming that's different than what we know or what we see. Whether or not that impacts what happens with the SBA remains to be seen. But as of this morning, this information remains current. The program is open both to those who took PPP under the first draw last year and those who did not. So there are some distinctions between what the SBA, the Small Business Administration, calls the first draw and the second draw. If you are a small business, one of the things we've encountered quite a bit is I don't know where to go to apply. I don't know what lenders to go to. And if you were with us last year, you may remember there was some talk about some banks doing it, some banks not doing it, some banks authorizing it for preferred customers, some people going to non-traditional lending institutions. One of the things that SBA.gov now has is if you go onto the website, there is a link for lender match, and you can fill out a profile and it will allegedly connect you or identify some prospective lenders for you to apply to. As a loan, in the event you are aware, hopefully, that the PPP operates in one of two ways. It's going to be a loan or it's going to be a grant. And we'll talk about each of those scenarios. As a loan, it's going to have an interest rate of only 1%. If it was issued to you last year, meaning you were a first draw participant, meaning you took the money prior to June 5, 2020, and you did not apply for loan forgiveness, you have 2 years to pay back. If you took the money after June 5 in one of the later waves, you have 5 years to pay the money back. And again, that's only if you did not apply or did not qualify for forgiveness and have the loan treated as a grant. You should know that loan payments will be deferred for borrowers who applied for loan forgiveness until the SBA determines whether forgiveness is applicable to your situation. There are going to be no collateral or guarantees of any loan required. It's simply a collectible, what they call a non-recourse loan. And then neither the government nor any lender can charge you any fees for having had this converted, taken, or treated as a loan. Now, if you were a first draw participant, meaning you took the money in one of the prior waves before the current round of applications that are now due by March 31, you can have your loan forgiven if you maintain both your employees and their compensation levels at the levels they were at when you took the loan. The loan proceeds are spent on payroll costs and other eligible expenses, and they are at least 60% of the proceeds are spent on those payroll costs. We do have an earlier office hours that I believe is recorded that talks about the specifics of first draw loan forgiveness. So if you want to go back and take a look for that in our library, go ahead and do that. If you're a second draw participant, meaning you are going to currently be seeking PPP money, you are entitled to forgiveness and have what is a loan treated as a grant. Again, if employee and compensation levels are maintained in the same manner as required from the first draw, meaning you kept your employees, you kept them at the same rate, you kept them at the same hours. The loan proceeds are spent on payroll costs and other expenses, meaning, again, like I said last time, you didn't go out and buy yourself a Bentley with it. And at least 60% of the proceeds are spent on payroll costs. And if you recall, perhaps from last year, that's a significant decline in the percentage of money you have to spend on the qualifying costs. It used to be 75 to 80%, and that number was dropped back, I believe, in June of last year to 60%. The deadline to apply, as I said, is going to be March 31 of this year. Again, if you're listening to this after January 21, 2021, you might want to check sba.gov because that deadline might move, and or the limits of the amount you can qualify for might also have changed. Who qualifies? Sole proprietors, independent contractors qualify, and self-employed persons. Also, any small business that meets the SBA's size standards. That's a long list with a lot of moving parts. It's always best to go to sba.gov to piece that together. I could devote 15 to 20 minutes to explaining what that definition means, but effectively, if you are a small business and you consider yourself a small business, there's a very good chance you meet that definition. 501c3 nonprofits can qualify. And any business with what's called a NAICS code, N-A-I-C-S, that begins with the number 72. This has to do with the Code of Federal Regulations and has to do with accommodations in food services. And really what we're talking about are caterers, restaurants, diners, dine-in services. If you have more than one physical location, but less than 500 per location. You have employees of less than 500 per location. Forms for everything you're going to need to make this happen are on sba.gov. It's become, at the beginning, it was a pretty limited tool. It was a pretty limited website, obviously, because they were building the bicycle as they rode it. It's a lot more informative now than it was. It's a lot more user-friendly than it was. I was just on it yesterday. It had a lot of very helpful links to allow small businesses to go on there and sort of piece together a lot of the information they need in order to be able to approach lenders much better prepared to apply and qualify, rather than go into it with this vague sense of, I need PPP, I'm really not sure what it is, and how am I going to find a lender to help me figure this out? They've very much improved that process. And if you are even remotely considering the idea, I encourage you to go check out the website. There's a lot of helpful information that should help you make a decision. When to apply for forgiveness. You can apply for forgiveness once all of the loan proceeds for which the borrower is requesting have been used. You can also apply anytime up to the maturity date of the loan. And if you don't apply for forgiveness within 10 months after the last day of your covered period, then the PPP payments are no longer deferred and borrowers are supposed to begin making payments to their lender. Understand that it's not something you would operate in the dark. You will receive notices. There is information that will be conveyed to you that will allow you to help make these decisions. That said, you should be aware going into the process what your timeline looks like. The forgiveness process does take some time to go through. You do need to have documentation lined up. I don't want to get too heavy into the specifics of what you're going to need because I am fairly certain it's going to change between now and the time that the new forgiveness period deadline begins. But safe to say you're going to need tax returns, bank statements, you're going to need proof of what you paid your employees, and you're going to need a lot of records in order to substantiate what you spent the money on. And with that, thank you. And I will gladly take anybody's questions. And if you have any questions, you can always feel free to reach me at kj@sflblg.com.